Hi guys, welcome to another episode of LR Live. In today's Tricked Out Tuesday, we're going to be doing a few bits to the Project 110 Defender. We're going to be focusing kind of on this area initially, and then we're going to be going inside to do some modifications to the interior. So check it out. First thing we're going to do is actually remove these windscreen hinges. They need to come off to be treated anyway. They need to be rubbed down and repainted if we're going to be fitting them back in white. But I also want to see what the corrosion is like on the inside here. I've got some crust, which is by Hammerite, to actually treat that corrosive area if it's just a matter of putting a stop to the corrosion rather than having to chop it all out. I'm going to have a look at that anyway and see what it's like. Then we've got some new parts to fit, new windscreen hinge, we've got a new retaining plate for the back, all new bolts, some gaskets, so that'll tidy that area up nicely there. We're then going to be doing these hinge bolts here on the vent flaps. Now they do work, so it's not the end of the world. I think they're probably going to come out quite easily, but I will show you a couple of tricks that I've learned in the past to get these out easily on your vehicle should you want to, and I'll show you how that's done. And then lastly, we've got one of these slide out cubby box drawers that we're going to be fitting in place of the center seat, which I did say before we weren't going to probably keep. But we've got one of the sliding cubby box drawers to go on there, and we've got a cubby box to go on top. So yeah, quite a lot to get into really on this Tuesday. So I've got the light in here to try and show you the area I mean. Now this is the back of that hinge, windscreen hinge, and you can see there's quite a bit of corrosion. Now if I just touch this here, you'll see there is water collecting in there. So for some reason we're getting quite a bit of water, and I'm already seeing that we have got, it's worse than I'd hoped, but we can get started on that. Now we also got quite a lot of water dripping down, and that has gone onto the floor mat. Again, I mentioned before, great idea to have some rubber floor mats with a channel around the outside, so I'm going to be getting some of those in here because, you know, there's a lot of dripping going on. Can you see that? And we're not even in the rain, so we're actually out of the rain now. So yeah, I want to investigate that and see what's causing it. So let's get some of this panel taken off. So we're literally just going to be taking some of these screws off here. I'll probably take the binnacle off here and also the end panel for the heater controls. This will be something you're familiar with, I'm sure. I think it's coming somewhere from up here. So we've got water running down there. Yeah, all down there, look. These rubbers could do with a refresh as well. Shame, because they are originals. But I think we're going to have to deal with some of this quickly. So taking the plastics off isn't too big a job. It's fairly simple. Some of the screws are missing, but I can put those back in when I put it all back together again. And obviously the bolts came out freely from the hinge for the mount, and yeah, that all came apart quite easily and gave us a better look at what sort of corrosion we've got in that area. There we go. And I'm glad to see we don't have any corrosion here. Okay, so the top windscreen is aluminium, so that won't rust. You can see there's a bit of movement in there now. And this obviously is the bulkhead, which is steel, which will rust. That has not had filler or anything in it, so I'm really, really surprised how good that is. But we need to take care of that corrosion that's starting at the front and the back, so I'll do that now. Okay, so we have cleaned up the area at the back there. It's still really wet, so I'm actually going to fit the windscreen hinge without doing the treatment to the rust, because I'm going to go back into it later. We're going to get the doors off and give ourselves a bit more room because there's more corrosion down the A-pillar. I want to make sure that every bit's treated, but I can't leave the windscreen without having the hinges on. So I'm going to put them on now. I'm going to use lots of copper slip on the bolts in the kit. So the kit we've got from LR Parts is we've got these 3 bolts per side. The kit comes with all the bolts you need. We've opted for a cast aluminium black painted replacement. Now this is a direct replacement, which means that we can paint it should we wish to, body colour. That's not a problem. That just sits on there with the gaskets as well that you get in the kit. So everything's all there, and we've also invested in one of these plates. So this is a special plate, the retaining plate at the back, because the other one was really rusty. So we'll put this in place and then get everything assembled. Should be pretty swift. Now, if you have got a lot of corrosion there on your bulkhead, even though if you've treated it and you're not doing the repair just yet, just be careful when you clamp it all up, because that is really a box section there and you don't want to be crushing the wall too much. So make sure, you know, it's all set up correctly. That's interesting. So we've gone too far on this and it's actually pushed through. Now, initially I thought maybe I had compressed that box section too much because the tolerances on these are pretty tight. But when I inspected the retaining plate we used, this one here, which is the correct piece, but the original one is just flat. The part that supersedes this is this piece here. It's got a little bump in it, as you can see there. Now, when you lay it flat, you can see it sits higher. So there's no need for the extra washer that you have on this piece at the top. But what you do need is you need the extra thickness here. So the piece that I forgot to fit and ruined the windscreen clamp, sorry about that, is this piece here. So apologies to LR Parts. I needed to fit this piece as well to make it twice as thick. So we're going to do it again and hope we do it right. Put your gasket on correctly so the holes line up, as so. Middle one on first, just to make sure the other ones line up easy enough. There, that is how it's supposed to look. So if you want to see the passenger side, sadly it was worse. So again, taken off the door seal, coming down here, it's all looking good, apart from where we've removed the seal, starting to blister and it's actually gone through, look. So we do have some corrosion there. Again, not the end of the world. It's not gone through around here. That all feels solid, even where on the other side it had gone through. So there's a screw here and a screw here that you have to remove in this capping. And then underneath the Land Rover badge just here that was, you just pop that little Land Rover badge off, big one there, and that just lifts out. It's got two little retaining stubs that come out the bottom there. So they locate, so just make sure they're intact. Yeah, we have got some rot through the bulkhead, but it is really not that bad. I know it looks bad, but once we get the corrosion inhibitor on there, that is going to clean that up a treat. Once it's dry, we get a wire brush on there, that will be a lot better. They don't look out of place. Quite like them in black because there's a good chance this is going to have black hinges on as well. Sorry if that upsets people, but we're going to give it a go. So the next job are these hinge pins. Now, for those of you with a keen eye, you'll notice that I've removed the hinges again. So obviously, if this is a job you're going to tackle yourselves, I would thoroughly recommend doing all of this together, but do your hinge pins when you've taken your windscreen hinge off. The reason for that is because obviously if you don't have a spanner, and a socket is a better tool to use for these, especially if they're corroded. If you don't have a spanner, you're going to need a socket, and the socket needs to go here, and you're going to find that this hinge is in the way. So you can get, it's nice to see they're free, look, do you see that move? So we just get over the paint there. Now I don't have a 7mm, so I'm just going to use these vice grips to hold the other end. There we go, that's broken off nicely. So I can release that. If yours is seized in there, obviously spray as much anti-seize, WD-40 or something like that, in there and leave it for a while to settle. And then use this big bolt here, just set it on top. So you can use the natural channel here to guide you. Just set it in there, and I've got a dead blow hammer here, but you can use a regular one. Just tap it through with that big fat head. Now once you're through most of it, you need to use another implement. Now once we've got one of these out, we can actually cut the end off and use it to knock the others through, but I'm going to use a hex key here just to get it started. There we go. And then the hex key obviously has got a bit on the end, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to be just tapping the end here and knocking it through. There we go. Okay, so when you've got your pin out, the next stage obviously is to put some anti-seize paste or copper slip on your stainless pin, slide it into place, and what you'll find is possibly it won't go in because this is dropped out of place. So the easiest thing to do here is just loosen off, open your flap slightly, don't lock it off, just leave it unlocked on the inside, and that means you can move it around and get it located. Now the really important part is once that's located, you then want to shut your flap, because if you then, I'll show you, if you then shut your flap like that, so with the vent then shut and locked off, you can fit your nut. And the reason I do that is because so many times I've actually dropped this inside here and it's just a misery to get it and find it again. So, you know, just being a bit precautious, I guess, but we're all stitched up. Just grab hold of that one there, try not to damage the paintwork, and then from the side here we're just going to nip it up. There we go. Pretty simple stuff, and that's all in there ready for the next 20 years. So this is a quick look at what we had, what I had fitted to the door for the journey up from Norfolk, and I replaced this whole handle with just this flappy strap that I had lying about. But we're going to fit a mud product. It's a flexible handle which should do the same job. I still think it's going to get in my way, which means I'm probably going to design something a bit more like this because I like that, and it's a blank for that. But we're going to give theirs a go and see what it's like. Doesn't come with instructions. I'm guessing that goes in there. I would think that I probably need a soldering iron to melt through that for a nice hole, but I don't have one, so that's just going to go straight in with the screw, fingers crossed. So that was pretty easy, to be fair. Went straight through. As I said before, I prefer that side on the outside for me. I think it looks kind of cooler, so I'm going to go for that. That's just way too much strap for me. I suppose in theory it could sit above my thigh. Let's have a look. Nice and easy to shut. Oh, look at that. Hey, take it all back. So that is a better solution. It's not great when it's down there, but if I put it up above my leg, easy. So close. Wow. So grab it. I mean, it's not the nicest looking thing, but it is practical. Don't mind it, to be fair. There, more room. So we're into some good stuff here. So I've literally just unscrewed this center plate. It's just 4 screws. 2 of them hold the metal bracket on this particular vehicle on TD5, and that's your OBD, which we'll run through again. Now what I have to do is remove these 2 bolts here. Now I don't know, it doesn't feel like they're captive. It feels like they've got nuts on those. Well then, that wasn't easy. Certainly not plain sailing. We have made a bit of a mess. Or rather, things are a mess. Okay, so basically, that was hard work. None of these were captive, so we had to get a 13mm spanner under there, 10mm on top, both of those. And then these little buggers at the back are actually a T30, but they look like someone had a go at them before and they didn't want to play ball, so they took a bit of taken out. But again, 13mm underneath, just held these in position. And they came undone all right, it's just that they had a tendency to want to spin. So 4 bolts out, there goes the center seat. So yeah, here's the actual base of the cubby box drawer itself, and those are the runners that come with it, the drawer runners, and you actually just put those into place and fix those in yourself. So you they just poke through and you just put them together with washers and nuts. Now, one important thing is, here I am installing or getting ready to install it. I'm going to mark it obviously on that plate, score it and then drill it through. But what I should have done before I did this process was actually fit the cover, the top of the drawer system itself, because having done it later on, it just proved to be so much more difficult, and the instructions were very clear on what order to do it in, and that's what I should have done. So just here I'm putting the plate back in position for the OBD, and if you move that as far forward as it can go when you mount it back in position, there is still room to fit the drawer system, so that's nice that that's been able to stay in place. So yeah, there you go, there you see me putting the lid on there, which is something I should have done before fitting it into the vehicle, but sadly I did not. You need 2 people to install it into the vehicle, because obviously you need to get under the vehicle to do the nuts up, and then you need someone from the top to sort of start to screw up the bolts. So it does take 2 people to do that job. But once it's in, putting the cubby box on top is really easy. It just fit into place. Just be wary of actually the screws at the back can be too long. This cubby box didn't have the wooden blocks in underneath, and so those bolts there you see, which are nicely covered up, were too long, so I had to space them out. Okay guys, that is a wrap on this episode. Hopefully you saw something that you like the look of. So at the end of the day, we did quite a few tricked out parts for today's Tricked Out Tuesday, but my favourite probably is this cubby drawer box. I think it's a really good idea, and it's one of those ideas that when you see it you think, how did we not know about this beforehand? Why did someone not think of this? It's such a good idea that it should have been out for a long time. It's only been out for about 4 years, and I certainly never knew about it, but I'm just really pleased we've got one in our Defender. As I said before, that middle seat really is fairly redundant for most people's use, unless you've got a small terrier that you like to take around in your Land Rover. So this cubby box, great bit of kit. I do like the way it opens and shuts so easily. I also like the fact that you haven't got to lock it to keep it closed. It's just got a latch, which is a lockable option. So we fully mudded out again on this episode, but it's just nice to take the product we saw in a previous feature that we did when we visited Mud and actually apply it to our own Defender. The door handle I'm really pleased with. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I do, but I do like the fact that it sits above your thigh when you're in the vehicle. It's easy to open and close. I only fitted it on my side because I don't think it'll bother a passenger. Now, although our vent pins were okay, I thought it was important to show you guys how easy it is to do that job and just throw in a couple of tips to make it easier for you to do. And then again, you know, the little error I made fitting the windscreen hinge, it was an easy mistake to make, and I wouldn't want you guys to do it. So hopefully seeing it on screen the way you're supposed to do it and giving you a list of those parts should help you if that's a job you want to take on yourselves in the future. So thanks ever so much for watching. If you do like what you see and you don't want to miss out, please do subscribe. It would really help the channel. And again, if you like what you see, please do give me a thumbs up, because that works as well. So for now, that's all, and we're going to be doing a few more bits and pieces towards the end of the week, and then I'm back doing the soft top conversion this weekend on the 90. That'll be released next week, so plenty to go on with, and so I'll say cheerio for now, and I'll catch you on the next one.